So far we've covered what the roles of the core are. Now what I'd like to spend a little bit of time on is talking about, well, what do these muscles do? What exactly movements can these muscles create when they contract? There are four major movements that can be created when the core muscles do their thing. So the first thing is that there is a standard movement called flexion. So the muscles contract and you bend forward. Then what happens is that, of course, the muscles on the back, if they contract, then you can do what's called extension. They're the first two movements. Then there is what's called a lateral flexion, which is when you bend to the side, either one side or the other. And then the final movement is that when you have a rotation. So you either rotate one side or you rotate to the other side. Now, the important thing is that the core has two roles with each of these movements. The first is that they initiate the movement. So they start the movement, they create the movement, your core contracts and I rotate to one side, or I bend to one side, or I bend forward, or whatever. The second thing that's equally, if not more important, and this is where most of the injuries occur, is that the core should be able to control those movements if those movements are actually taking place. So what do I mean by that? If I rapidly rotate around to this side, some muscles on one side are initiating the movement, but the opposing muscles are now controlling the movement. This is where we often see the injuries take place. From the previous video, you may have mentioned that people often get hurt when they rapidly drop down and pick up something, or they all of a sudden get put in a position they're not used to. That's because the resisting or controlling muscles haven't been prepared appropriately to control that movement and absorb the force that will rush through this core or torso region when you're placed in one of those particular positions. So super important that we develop both muscles to initiate the movements, and typically in a gym setting we see people mainly spend time just developing that aspect of their core, but rarely do I see people training the resistive aspect or the controlling aspect of the core, and that's what we're going to run through in the latter stages of this course as to what are those movements, how can we go about building them into some sort of exercise routine. Now, some examples of these movements are the following. If we look at flexion, and here's an example of if you're going to bend over and pick something up off the ground. We have extension when lifting something heavy from a bent over position, or reaching up really high and potentially backwards to reach something above your head. There's lateral flexion, which is when we carry something on one side or pick something up from the side, such as a suitcase, to pick it up and then walk along. And then finally there is rotation, which is when we twist or rotate to perform some task, or we go bend around to pick up something or reach for something. They're the four movements.